What's up, guys? My name is Christian, and today I want to talk about the book of Ecclesiastes. And the book of Ecclesiastes is seen as, let's say, the black sheep of the books in the Bible by most people. People see it as overly depressing and overly grim. However, I've been studying it the past few days in depth, I should say, and I've found something very beautiful about it. And I think it's only overly depressing and grim when you take it to that extreme, the extreme of life is pointless, we're no different than animals, and so on and so forth. And if you avoid those extremes, you come to realize what these verses are really saying. And even though this book is very blunt in its teachings, we need to know these things. No matter how grim they may seem, they're still true. And I want to talk about the beautiful thing behind the book of Ecclesiastes that is so often overlooked and that so needs to be known, because all books in the Bible are important. No matter how grim some of the verses in the Bible, in the books of the Bible may seem, they are all important. And so, the book of Ecclesiastes is no different, so I'm going to talk about it. So, a lot of people say that Ecclesiastes teaches that humans and animals are no different, and it does say that animals and humans are no different in the fact that they both breathe and they both die. It doesn't say that we're no more valuable than animals and that we aren't uniquely made in the image of God. It's simply saying that we both live and we both die just like animals, so that means we need to choose our decisions wisely, make our decisions wisely, and just live life wise and be smart and not make rash decisions. It does not mean that we are no different than animals whatsoever. It's to highlight the fact that we need to be smart in our ways and we need to rely on God to guide us so that we don't simply live and die like animals and are forgotten just like animals are when they die. Even if they are pets, we usually end up forgetting them within a few years at most. So, again, it's teaching that we need to live our lives wisely. And another thing that kind of touches on something related to that is the fact that the book of Ecclesiastes says that life is pointless. However, it says that life is pointless without God. It does not say that life is pointless, and a vapor is another thing that says, meaning it goes by quick. Just in general, it says that it's pointless without God, without God's forgiveness, without the guidance of God, without God being there to guide us in our everyday lives and to strengthen our love and compassion for others and to truly save us from the inevitable the inevitable death that sin will cause, which does make life pointless if we accept that death without turning to God. So again, it is only pointless when we don't turn to God with our life and our decisions, because if we don't, all we have is death, and at that point, once our lives here are over, everything we could ever do, everything we've done, is essentially pointless. So, in a sense, even though it's blunt, it is pointless, but again, only when we don't rely on God. And something we have to remember is that this is coming from Solomon, who has been a king for however many years now, and this is before Christ had come to die for our sins, so they didn't have that hope back then. Not to say that those who walked with God and were faithful to God went to hell, but they did not have the hope that we have today. So that's another thing we need to take into account when looking at the book of Ecclesiastes, is even though Solomon is and was a brilliant man, the wisest man to have ever existed besides Jesus, he still did not have the hope of Christ that we have today, and that's why he is looking at life and death as he's looking at them in that book. And we need to understand that things are different now in a lot of ways. They still are the same in a lot of ways if you look at them in the right context, but they are also vastly different. Excuse me, my throat is hurting. But they are also vastly different because we have the hope of Christ. And we need to understand that, as I've said a million times, that they didn't have that hope back then, that Christ would be with us every day to guide us every day, and that He would be so close, that He would be inside of us literally every day, every moment, until we die and go to heaven. So, of course, when you look at life and death without that hope and that future hope, you're probably going to look at it as pretty grim. And a lot of things that Ecclesiastes teaches, such as life being but a vapor, meaning it just goes by so quickly compared to eternity. Again, grim in your face. It's true. Life compared to eternity is. I can't really snap my fingers, I don't know why I attempted that. But compared to eternity, it goes by like a flash. And so, again, it's saying life is a vapor in the sense that we need to be wise, and we need to be kind to people, and we need to make an impact while we're here, and we need to do as much as we can while we're here, because it's not going to last for long. And we shouldn't take things for granted, because we'll lose those things eventually. Of course, they will be replaced with eternal things if we rely on God, but that doesn't take away from the fact that earthly things have been given to us as gifts that we should steward wisely, and that we need to take care of while we're here, so that we can impact people while they're here on earth and while we're here on earth. So life is but a vapor, and that is true. And with that in mind, we need to go about living our lives wisely and for other people, and to be servants of others just like Christ was. So again, I've already said this, but I think Ecclesiastes is only extremely depressing, even though that I don't think that's the right word, and extremely grim when it's taken to those extremes. And even though there are some grim things in it, those grim things need to be told to us because we need to know them, because they're true. But we also need to remember that we have the hope of Christ today. So we do not have to look at life in the same perspective that that Saul had to, because he lived in the Old Testament. So I know this is probably blabbering as usual. I don't know why I go about explaining this. You guys know my videos by now. But anyway, I hope this touched you guys. I hope this guys gave you a new and fresh perspective, and I hope it at least taught something, because I know I blabber on and on, but God uses the foolish to bring wisdom to others. So I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you enjoyed my videos, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you all so much for your support, and I love you all, and God bless, and I'm going to stop rambling now. See you in the next one, and